It is Rey Skywalker's Sunday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. Come on, phone, don't fail me now. This evening, let us play with the latest iteration of very easy meditation. We shall begin with the first quarter of mindful crease counting meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we can advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply this by 8 sets and you get 96. We count those 8 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. And to keep track of this, our first quarter, we rest the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger, upon the tip of our left little finger, palms up in our lap. Doing this, we gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the bladder region of our lower abdomen. Come, let us demystify enlightenment. Enlightenment, like any word found in the dictionary, has a definition. But the question is, from whom are we going to receive our definitions? We receive definitions from those who are religious and rigid and superstitious and controlling and elitist. They'll have us believing it's going to take a length of time equal to the creation and destruction of 3 universes, which is absurd, especially since the Buddha taught that one can master his path in as little as a week. So I advise you to rely more upon a definition set by those who practice spiritual matriarchy, who are flexible and laid back and egalitarian. From this worldview, enlightenment is nothing more than mastery of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. But what do we mean by mastery? Mastery, if anything, means we get so good at it that we practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. So here's the wild thing. There's 8 folds in this path, but if we focus primarily, I'm going to use the word focus. If the object of our training is centered on the 7th fold, which is mindfulness, and the 8th fold, which is meditation, then the remaining 6 folds take care of themselves. And that's what I'm going to show you during the 4 quarters of tonight's practice. So since mindfulness and meditation are so important, let us explore them through the lens of neuroscience after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Now, at long last, please chant with me. The nudity of the archetypical couple sporting in tantric union reminds us of the vulnerability so crucial to mindfulness. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that in 90% of everything sex, since the Neolithic Revolution, society has been training each of us To be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel to such a point that the majority of us will denigrate the few who rebel against the matrix and instead strive to be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. So, these rigid folks, these controlling folks, what's it like to learn meditation from them? Well, these folks implore their students to actively focus and actively analyze. Oh, they give them fancy names like shamatha and vipassana, but still, neuroscience teaches us that the only neural pathways capable of performing those functions are the ones found in discrete regions of the brain, such as the medial prefrontal cortex or the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Overtrain this region and we trigger our amygdala, the seat of aggression and anxiety. And I think we can all agree that aggression is the opposite of love, and anxiety is the opposite of peace. Things we don't want, not even remotely. So here's the good news. Neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Let us turn our attention to mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to plug into or access the sympathetic nervous system found in the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way. It has evolved to help us notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, which I'm sure you can agree is the opposite of concentration, with its rigidity and whatnot. But what is it that we have evolved to notice? We have evolved to notice mind's antics of perception. You know, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, such as emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. That sounds like a tall order, like we're being asked to ride a unicycle backwards whilst juggling, while balancing on a cable between two very tall buildings. Fortunately, there's a hack. Silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, and you will induce your cerebral cortex to stop fighting with the sympathetic nervous system and begin cooperating with it. Where's the cursor? There it is. So now that we've gone into exhaustive detail with mindfulness, let us just superficially touch on meditation. When we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we can physically relax and mentally release to such a degree that what we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less solid, less permanent, and less defining. Now let's relate this back to what we discussed about the Eightfold Path. Play with mindfulness and meditation every 8 hours or so. And the reality of literal impermanence could support our release. Together as a team, let us meditate right now. pardon me. Welcome to the second quarter of Mindful Crease Counting Meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we can advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply this by 8 sets, and you have 96 inhalations. We could count those 8 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. To keep track of this second quarter, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger, upon the tip of our left ring finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the navel region of our mid-abdomen. Please chant with me. The translucence of the archetype of the all-good father and mother depicted in paintings reminds us of meditation's experience of impermanence and non-graspability. Let's have a spot of review, shall we? What is the key to mindfulness? When we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we cannot help but vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. But what do we do with that which we notice? For it is so varied. We can notice we can notice the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. What are we to do with all that which we notice? Consider, if you will, meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to effortlessly and automatically access the parasympathetic nervous system divided between the lower third and the upper third of our spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. In other words, when we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we gently, what's the word I'm looking for? We gently induce our cerebral cortex to stop repressing our parasympathetic nervous system and start cooperating with it. This causes us to mentally release to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, any good English teacher will remind us that a simile is only as powerful as it is relatable. So we have to ask the question. We have to ask, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void? The answer will shock you in its obviousness. How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand. Let us return to our idea of the Eightfold Path. Simply by playing with mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so, we can become so acquainted with figurative emptiness that it supports our habit of mental release. Together, as a team, let us practice meditation for the next few moments. The next several moments, actually. Allow me to remind you that every time you inhale, every time we inhale, we are wired to generate a vertical traction between our tush and our head. However, every time we exhale, that traction could release. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, or Buddhist philosophy, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Welcome to the third quarter of Mindful Crease Counting Meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply this by 8 sets, and you've got 96. We could count those 8 sets upon our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. To keep track of this, our third quarter, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger, upon the tip of our left middle finger, in our lap, palms up. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the heart region of our chest. Oh, won't you please chant with me? The beauty of the archetype sky blue kuntu zong po and cloud white kuntu zong mu yam yam remind us of the highest, love, spontaneous, and uncontrived. So, a quick review. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, including humans. And what that looks like is 90% of meditation teachers being profoundly rigid and controlling. How rigid and controlling? So rigid and controlling that they implore their students to actively focus and actively analyze. When we overwork our prefrontal cortex, we trigger the amygdala, which is the seat of anxiety and aggression. Now, what often happens is they have enough perception to notice an increase, an uptick, if you will, of aggression. But because they are lost in the sunk cost logical fallacy, their antidote is just to practice more focus and analysis, this time focusing and analyzing love. As you can imagine, that just multiplies the anxiety and aggression. Now, here's the good news. When we practice mindfulness and meditation, two things happen. But first, I'd like to review with you the essence of mindfulness. When we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, thanks to our sympathetic nervous system, we vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. What do we do with all that which we notice? That brings us to meditation. For every time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, thanks to our parasympathetic nervous system, we mentally release to such a degree that what we noticed during the previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less solid, less permanent, and less defining. Consequently, remember that anxiety and aggression we talked about? Well, this mindfulness and meditation reduce their intensity and reduce the control that they exert over our choices and our utterances and our deeds. But there's more. Play with mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so. And we will stimulate our anterior cingulate gyrus. In this diagram, it's highlighted in fuchsia, and so it describes the letter C, doesn't it? This bad boy has evolved to function as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, the root of love and compassion. This is exactly why the late Tulku Thondup insisted that when we use focus and analysis to contrive love, all we wind up with is an analog, pale and flaccid and worthless and weak. The highest love is the spontaneous, effortless, and uncontrived fringe benefit or byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. And that is very important because 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, the very substance of enlightenment, is comprised of loving kindness. Let's put a finer point on that. Kind intention, kind communication, kind conduct, and commerce that is as cooperative as it is kind. All this from playing with mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so. So together, as a team, let us play with mindfulness and meditation right now. Welcome to the fourth quarter of mindful crease counting meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply this by 8 sets, and you'll get 96 inhalations. We can count those 8 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. Since we could keep track of this, our fourth quarter, by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the crown region of our head. Please chant with me. The stability with which the octave sky blue samanta mandara sits, and the abandon with which cloud white samanta mandari sports, reminds us of the effortless effort of centered spontaneity. By way of review, let's begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, let's try this again. Every time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, thanks to our sympathetic nervous system, we are wired to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice many things. We're wired to notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. And we're also wired to notice mind's antics of desire and dread, as well as mind's antics of resisting the absence of what we desire, as well as resisting the presence of what we dread. What about meditation? Every time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, thanks to our parasympathetic nervous system, we physically relax and mentally release not only the desires and dreads we notice during our inhalations, but also we release our resistance to the absence of what we desire, and we release our resistance to the presence of what we dread. Now, at first blush, that could sound horrible. That could sound like we're setting ourselves up to be a doormat, forever being used by the boots of life to scrape off its muck. But what if that wasn't the case? What if the more we practiced mindfulness and the more we practiced meditation, the more our choices and utterances and deeds flowed with the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, which should not be confused with the scattered spontaneity we sometimes feel after our fourth consecutive espresso, but rather the centered spontaneity that is created or generated or accessed by mindfulness and meditation. We could consider this flowing or going with the flow. We could consider this surfing our Buddha nature. But what do we mean by Buddha nature? Buddha nature is just a charming tool invented during the Iron Age to explore the ubiquity of our capacity to practice the Buddhist path. Oops, I gotta close the door. 1 moment. Otherwise, my neighbor will start the car and I'll have my own private Auschwitz in here. And nobody wants that. Now, these days, in the digital age, we have the wonders of MRIs, magnetic resonance imaging, that shows us definitively that our sympathetic nervous system is the seat of mindfulness, that our parasympathetic nervous system is the seat of meditation, and that our anterior cingulate gyrus is the seat of empathy. Every healthy human is wired to not only practice the Buddha's Eightfold Path, but master it. And really, isn't that what enlightenment is? So together, as a team, let us practice mindfulness and meditation for the next several minutes. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours or so, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.